start recording. Oh, it doesn't automatically start broadcasting. Okay. Right.
I just unshare my screen because. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to our friends in the East or the Central North America. It's great to see you all this morning. My name is Monica, for those of you who don't know me and haven't joined some of our past few webinars. We're just waiting for a few more people to sign in. There's always some slow comers to our 11 a.m. start here. So we're just going to start with a quick poll. We do this for most of our webinars. I like to get a bit of a feel of who you are and try and make my presentation as relevant to you as I can. So if you can fill in the poll, I want to know who you are, what type of company you represent. Are you here as an integrator, a manufacturer, someone who actually owns a building and is trying to manage that building, or a consultant? So if you can fill in that poll, we'll just take a minute here to get all those responses. Okay. So again, I wanted to welcome you. I know we have a lot of new faces on our webinar. We're back by popular demand. After our last few webinars, we've had quite a few people ask how to actually use Visual BACnet, how to actually use our software. So today we're going to really focus on how to use it and some of the pieces that you may not know, even if you've been using it for a little while, you may not know are out there and that you can take advantage of. Okay, so I'd love to, well, I think we'll pop in the next poll question here and try and, I want to get a feel for how much time you spend trying to find a problem in your BACnet system. So how much of your very valuable time are you out there trying to figure out, not fix the problem, because that's what we want you to be doing. We want you to be spending your time fixing problems. But how much time are you spending finding that problem, trying to figure out where that problem is so that you can then go and fix it? So respond to our poll. We'll get a bit of a feel for that. Looking good, getting lots of responses, so thank you. Awesome. Okay, so I think we'll close that poll and we'll get started here. So I'm going to share my screen so all of you can see it. I think everyone can see it. Perfect. So welcome once again. As you know, we're Optigo Networks, here to talk about Visual BACnet, our newest product, our software. We are located in beautiful Vancouver, which is the image that you're seeing in this photo, and it's a little bit snowy today, so that's exciting. If you want to follow along throughout this presentation, you're more than welcome to go and open a trial account. It's visualbacnet.com, and you can click Get It Now and open your trial account. It's good for 2 weeks. So you can play around with it after this presentation as well. As well, I emailed out some sample PCAPs to all of you. If you didn't receive the email, or if you're not sure where that email is in your inbox, you can go to visualbacnet.com/PCAPs, and you'll be able to get the same link to go and download those PCAPs. So those are the PCAP files that I'm going to be using in this presentation. So if you're looking for something to play around with in Visual BACnet, if you don't have any of your own, or you just want to see exactly what I'm seeing, then you can use those. Today we're going to talk about Visual BACnet, why you should use it, and an overview of it. If at any time you have questions, feel free to let me know. There is a question box. It should be in the right-hand side of your screen, although depending how you set up your screen, it may have moved around. So at any moment, feel free to send me some questions. If they're relevant to what I'm talking about at the time, I'll answer them then. Otherwise, we'll wait till the end. We do have a moderator standing by to answer some of those questions if they're more about the software or the sound's not working or anything like that. So feel free to communicate anything with us. As well, this session is being recorded, so we can send out a recording afterwards if you would like to share it with some of your colleagues or just watch it over and over because it's so valuable. Okay, so let's get started without any more chit chat. So for those of you who are brand new to Visual BACnet, this is the home screen of Visual BACnet. So Visual BACnet was designed by us, Optigo Networks, after talking to a lot of people in the industry about all the challenges that they have troubleshooting their networks, their communications, and their systems. We focus on BACnet because it is a very up-and-coming protocol, and people are still trying to figure it out. We know a lot of people, we have a lot of friends in the industry who spend a lot of time sifting through Wireshark, trying to figure out where the errors are, what devices are going on and offline, if their network is being flooded. And so we realized that this is something that people really needed. And so there's three different ways that people are using Visual BACnet. The first one is what I just referenced. It's troubleshooting when something's going wrong on the network. For example, we had a great webinar last week with Gary from Princeton, and he really uses the the tool to fix problems. All of the stadium lights in the Princeton Stadium were turning on in the middle of the night, and people who live around the stadium were calling in saying, we have these massive lights shining into our houses, and he's having to drive in at 2 a.m. to fix that. So he then used Visual BACnet to find what his problems were, fix his system, and make it a lot better. We also have people who are using Visual BACnet to baseline and do some commissioning. So one of our beloved customers here in Vancouver has a mandate that every building that they have an ongoing contract with, they do every 3 months, every quarter, they do a capture, run a report in Wireshark or in Visual BACnet, and keep that on file, and over time keep track of any changes in those buildings, see if there's anything that's an outlier or a big change since the last time that they ran that report. So really trying to track changes over time, which allows them to be much more effective at their job, and to catch problems before they have the tenant calling and saying, nothing's working, our heat's off, our lights are going crazy. And then finally we have, and this is also another way that Princeton is using it, we have some consultants and engineers, as well as building owners and integrators, who are requiring that anyone who puts something on the network run Visual BACnet before they install and after they install, to ensure that it hasn't had a major impact on the network health, to ensure that there's nothing that they're missing, that when everything seems to look good but they're not sure how it's going. So just trying to give some more insight into the impacts that installations can have on the system. So that's how Visual BACnet is being used. So how do we do that? How do we use it like that? Well, the first key is capture. So we still use Wireshark. We rely on Wireshark. Hopefully most of you are familiar with Wireshark. If you're not, it's a free online tool that you can go and download right now. It's an open source software. And you capture on your network. You then take that PCAP and upload it into Visual BACnet. We will give you an overview of the system, and you can use that to troubleshoot. You can use that to drill down, and you can explore your file and your system a bit more. So let's dive right in. Let's go into Visual BACnet. This is the home file screen of Visual BACnet. When you first log in, this is what you'll see. And you can actually just drag and drop a file right into there, and it will upload. Depending on the size of the file, it may take longer or may be super fast. Just trying to get all my webinar tools here. And then once it's uploaded and processed, you can click on it, and instantly will show you a summary of your network. So there's a lot going on the summary screen. I'm going to walk you through it in an overview, and then we'll dive deeper into each of the things as we go. So right in the middle here, this is our network health score. This is a concrete, specific number that takes into account all of the different diagnostic checks in your network, and it gives you a score for how good the network is. You're aiming for 100%, although we realize that it's unrealistic to ever have 100% in your network. Higher is better, so if you have 36%, there's a lot that you can do to improve your system. We then, over here, we have our statistics. This is all of the information in the PCAP, how big it is, how many packets are in your file, and how much of it is BACnet. So in this case, about 66% of it is BACnet, so that's a good amount. If you don't have enough BACnet traffic in your file, Visual BACnet can't provide that much insight into what's going on because you're not providing us with enough of the right packets. So a little box will pop up and let you know that you need to either capture for longer or capture in a different place on your network. You can also, if you want to look specifically at the BACnet traffic, it's broken down there. Then we have our statistics summary. So these are just some more specific information about the file, the number of networks observed, the number of devices observed, and we'll dig down into a few of those later. Below that, we have our visualization. So one of the things that Visual BACnet does, as you can probably tell from the name, Visual BACnet, we like to show you the information as visually as possible. There are a lot of things that the human eye can catch when information is given visually that just looking through numbers and packets, it's sometimes hard to understand. So this graph here shows all of the traffic that is in your packet. It shows BACnet traffic as well as non-BACnet traffic. If you are uploading an MSTP file, keep note that that is currently counted as non-BACnet traffic, so it will show up in the yellow. I will show you an MSTP file later. Moving on down here, we have notes. So we can add test notes. I've already added one there a couple weeks ago. I can add another one. Note that it says show on report here. So when I add a note, I can decide whether or not I want it to show on report. I've told that one to show on the report, so I'll leave this one to not. Make it super negative. But it's just a good way to track what your thoughts are on the system over time, so you don't have to come back and repeat all of your analyses every time you open the file. It's also really good if you're collaborating on the same PCAP. If you've shared your PCAP or you're on a team account, you'll see here it says that this was my note. Different people's names will show up depending on whose note it is, so you can leave notes for each other, pull in someone who knows more about BACnet, and get them to help you with answering questions, that type of thing. And then over here on the right-hand side, we have our diagnostic text. So this is one of the most powerful parts of Visual BACnet. At the top, it's just a summary of all of the currently 22 checks that we have in Visual BACnet, how many passed, how many are warnings, and how many failed. And then all of those checks are listed, and you can see exactly which ones passed, failed, and what the value of each of those were. So number of devices that are unresponsive, number of sources that are showing circular networks, number of packets with missing acknowledgements. All that information is available here. So that's the home screen. Moving back to the score where we started, if you click on that score, you can see an exact breakdown of how that score is calculated. So we know we don't want to just give you this number that's mysterious. We want you to understand exactly what is causing that number to be, in this case, 36%, and what you can do to improve it. So in the diagnostic checks here are broken into two different types of checks. We have our critical checks at the bottom and our scored checks at the top. The critical checks, as their name shows off, they are those checks that are critical. They're a big problem if they happen in your system, and you absolutely do not want them to be failing. So my recommendation is if you do have some critical checks that are failing, that's where you want to start. That's going to give you the most improvement in your network health score by fixing or by changing, and it's going to help your network the most. So in this case, we have our circular network. It's failing 3 sources. If you click on that, you can actually see what those sources are, what those destinations are, and understand more about how you might be able to go and fix it. So we'll just go back. So all of these are clickable, pass, warning, or fail. You can click on all of them, although most of the passes won't show much because there's no sources that are, or packets that are failing that specific check. For the scores here, you'll note that the critical checks take off a massive percentage, so 10, 20, or 40% right off the top of your score, whereas the scored checks count positively. So those are scored out of 10 or 20, depending on how important that check is, and they count positively towards the percentage of your score. Okay, so let's go back to the summary screen and just show you the diagnostic checks are exactly the same here. So you can see the same diagnostic checks here as you can in the network health score. They're just divided a bit differently. So in this case, we have 4 packets that are having global whois, or showing global whois. If we click on that, we can see it's the source device, and we can see exactly which frames and which packets are showing that, that global whois. So for those of you who understand and love Wireshark, this is a great place for you to use the two in tandem. You can go to frame 889 in Wireshark, look up that frame, and then do whatever it is you want to do in Wireshark. If you don't want to get into Wireshark, which we don't blame you for at all of the frame information is presented here. This is exactly the same as what you'll see in Wireshark. You can also see all of the other places where that packet is showing a global whois, or that source, sorry, is showing a global whois. Okay. Sorry, let's go back into that. You'll see at the top here, in each of our diagnostic checks, we have our knowledge base. So if you don't understand what that diagnostic check is, you can read exactly what the objective of it is, the details. That's usually how we have defined it or counted, what we've counted as failing that diagnostic check, as well as a link to an even more detailed explanation. So definitely take the time to look through here if you're not too sure what you're seeing. Okay, I think I have a question here. Do you all look at unconfirmed private transfer messages? Yes, we do. Global private transfers, let's see here. Under our other checks section here, we have our global private transfers, but only DNet 65535 is considered. So there may be some if there's other networks that you're looking at. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you for that question. If anyone else has more questions or you need more clarification on that, let me know. Okay, so just finishing off on these diagnostic checks, you will see here there's a little wrench with our capture settings. So if you ever want to see what the pass-fail warning thresholds are for each of our diagnostic checks, you can see that here. You can't edit them, but you can see them, so you can understand what you're aiming for. And you can also turn on and off diagnostic checks. So our global private transfers are here. And now I believe because the global whois failed, we'll turn that one off. We'll leave a note. Turning this check off for fun. Try and leave a little bit more useful comments than that. But this is really useful. So for example, some manufacturers have settings, or some devices have settings that show that a device should send a global whois every minute. And that can absolutely flood networks, which is why we are flagging that type of thing. However, if you're aware that this is something that happens in your system and you're okay with it happening, you can turn off this diagnostic check so that it doesn't give you a sort of skewed score because it's something that you're aware of and you're okay with. However, that will show up. We want to make sure that the score is still a good baseline. So we want to make sure that we communicate to everyone that the check is disabled. You'll see here that this check is disabled, and you'll see that my score has increased by 5% because I turned off that check, so it shifted the average. On our sidebar here, we'll go to our statistics summary next. There's quite a few more things that you can drill down into here. These are not included in the network health score, which is why they're in a different section. You'll see our checksum errors there. So in this case, we have 812 non-BACnet errors, no BACnet errors, so that's okay. BBMD traffic, peak non-BACnet bursts, lots of different information there. Okay. Networks observed, so this is good if you want to keep an eye on how many networks you have, especially if you're doing baselining. Hopefully this isn't changing too much over time, or if it is, you're aware of why it's changing. But can be very handy if you do see it changing to then go and start that conversation of why is this changing, where are these new networks popping up. And our devices observed. So this is our device list. I know a lot of you probably have device lists for all of your networks and systems, but here we present a list of all of the devices that are active during a capture. So it's important to note with the devices observed and the networks observed, these are only those that are active, talking, sending some kind of communication during the duration of the capture. So in this case, this is a 16-minute capture. Ooh, sorry, I'm clicking things. It's a 16-minute capture. It's quite an old one, you can see here. So most devices would be active during that 16 minutes. If they're not, or if you really want to make sure that you get a complete overview of all of the things that are happening on that network, you can force a global whois to during the capture, and that will have all of your devices send an IM. Any devices that send a whois or an IM during the capture are called fully identified devices, and we have all the information about them. Any devices that don't send a whois or an IM, but do send some kind of information, we know that they're unique devices, but we can't get all of the information about them. We list them down here as our partially identified devices. And this is really good if you need to cross-reference, you see a source address, but you need to get the vendor ID to figure out who you should call to help, or you need to get the network address because you're not sure what network it's on. This is a good place to cross-reference all that information. Below the device browser, we have four different graphs. And these are, again, back to the ability of the eye to see things better than sometimes our diagnostic text can. We give you the ability to sort your information, filter your information, and look at it visually. So in this case, you can choose if you want to look at a certain source, you have a source that you think is doing something crazy, you can filter and see only that source. If you have a specific service choice, you want to see all of your whois or all of your IAMs, you can do that here. Let's look at all of our IAMs. So this is likely a global whois going out with all of these IAMs coming back. We can see if that's true. Our whois. And then destination. So if you have a specific destination that you want to look at, those communications, you can do that there. One of the things that I actually like the most of these graphs is the ability to sort. So you can look at the totals, see which source to device has the most packets. So you can see this device here talking to this device here, which is in this case a global whois. Oh no, it's two devices talking to each other. You can see all the communications that they have. So those are two of your chattiest devices. If you know what those devices are and that's expected, then great. If it's not, you have somewhere to start looking. We have the same thing for response times. You can see how long all of your devices are taking to respond. On all of these graphs, you can drag and zoom in. And if you scroll over top of any of these little squares, it'll tell you exactly which device and what type of communication that is. And that goes for the graph on the home screen as well, if you wanted to zoom in on that. Okay. Now our BACnet browser, just finishing off this left-hand menu. this is a way for those of you who want to get deeper into digging through all of this stuff on your own. You can use the BACnet browser, and it's sort of a more user-friendly version of some of the things that Wireshark can do. You can choose if you'd like to start with your source, your destination, your PDU type, or your network. In this case, let's start with our PDU type. Let's look for confirm requests. We can then see there are 87 read properties. 86 of those are coming from this source device to this destination device. And you can dig down and see exactly all of the Wireshark information. But it's a little bit more, you can choose which devices and which information you want to see, rather than relying on what our diagnostic checks find and show you. Next, we have, I talked a lot about baselining earlier. So one of the really great things that you can do with Visual BACnet is create a PDF report. So I've just done that now. And you will see on this report a few different things. So we like to show right at the top the network health, just like on our home screen. And then you can see a lot of the summary information about that PCAP, as well as the number of passes and fails, and how much BACnet traffic is in that PCAP. Scrolling down, you'll get a lot more information. It'll have whose account it is, so my name, my contact, if the person needs to contact me. And then we get into notes. So if you remember that note that I left here, this one was supposed to show on the report and this one wasn't, and so that has shown up, as well as the author. So if there is some collaboration that's happening, if you have multiple people that want to leave notes in the same file, those will all show up here and be attributed to the correct author. Statistics summary, so again, the same stuff as on the summary screen. And then we get into the diagnostic checks. So they're all listed here with their value, and they're red if they fail and yellow if they're a warning. You'll remember that when I went into the statistics summary, or the capture settings, sorry, I disabled one of the devices and I left a comment. So that is shown here as disabled, and the comment shows up as to why I turned it off. So again, this is why you should leave more useful comments. But it's good to just be able to communicate. If something was disabled, you should have a good reason for it. And then if you scroll down, in the appendix, you'll get a list of, for each failing diagnostic check and for each warning, you will get the top 10 offenders, if there are 10. So in this case, with the circular networks, there were 3, so all 3 are listed here. If you need more than that, or if you want to drill down further, you'll have to do that in actual Visual BACnet. So a few more exciting little things that those of you who are using Visual BACnet may not know exist. We do have the ability to set a custom BACnet port. So if you are using, or one of your customer sites is using a custom BACnet port, you can go into your settings, type in the port number, and click Save Changes. It's very important to note that you need to set this before you upload your file, because when you upload it, we process it using that custom BACnet port, so we'll catch anything that is using that. So from your file screen, you can go into settings and set that BACnet port. Let me just make sure I don't have any questions here. Okay. Okay. So a few new things that have come out quite recently that we're really excited about. If you click on any of your files in your My Files screen, you'll see a few different things. So you can download that PCAP again. You can also, and this is new, you can share it by email. So say I wanted to share this file with myself in this case, because I am on my demo account. I can hit share, and I will be emailed the ability to look at that capture. So if the person you're sharing the file with has an account already, the file will simply show up in their account, and they'll receive an email. If they don't have an account, they will be invited to open a trial account. Once the trial expires after 2 weeks, all of our accounts are turned into view-only accounts. So you can still log in. We want to give you the ability to go and talk to your boss and tell them why you need Visual BACnet. So you can log in, and any files that are shared with you going forward, you'll also be able to view in that view-only account. And you can see what files are shared based on this little orangey yellow sharing button. If you want to remove the sharing, simply click remove, and that will be gone. Important to note that anyone who, if you do share a file, that person is able to view it, they're able to leave notes and run reports. The only thing they're not able to do is actually download that PCAP. That will be disabled. I think my last thing to show you guys is this orange Optigo help desk bar. So you'll see down here, need help or have a suggestion. This is our help desk. And I'm just going to start a chat here quickly. So basically this goes to normally me, although currently I'm obviously not helping anyone, as well as a couple of our developers. So if you do have any questions, simply chat in there. We're happy to help you, whether that's looking at your file and giving you feedback on what we're seeing, answering questions on how to use Visual BACnet, or simply getting feedback on the tool. If you're not sure of how it works, or you have feedback, or you find a bug, or anything like that, we're more than happy to hear that. So, I didn't type. So we'll see if we get a response from anyone. Hopefully they're awake. Okay, I'm just trying to check here, see if I have any questions. Looks good. Okay, oh, someone's typing. We're getting a response. I will also say that when I am on this, actually all of our team, we're all big fans of GIFs, so feel free to send us little moving images. Don't know how to respond to him. There we go. Great. So I think that's most of our overview of Visual BACnet. Hopefully you find it useful and you're able to go in and make some use of it. I did promise that I would show you an MSTP capture, so I will just find one of those now and show it to you. So okay. So here's our MSTP capture. You can see that all the MSTP traffic does show up as non-BACnet traffic, so don't be thrown off by that. So that's all of the tokens, all of the token traffic. The token passing is showing up as non-BACnet traffic. You'll also notice that we have 3 MSTP checks down here, which in the last one showed up but were not applicable because it didn't have MSTP traffic. So this file, it's noticing, it's recognizing that there is token passing, and so it is analyzing that information. So those 3 MSTP checks are the average token round trip time, the standard deviation of token round trip time, and token disruptions. So this is based on the idea that you don't want your token to take a really long time to make a full round trip of all of your devices. And if it is taking a long time, that may be because certain devices are having trouble talking to each other. And even if you do have a long round trip time, you want it to be quite consistent. It shouldn't take. It should take the same amount of time, pretty much every token round trip to complete that trip. And if that's not the case, then you may have some wiring problems, or your devices may not be communicating properly. They may be dropping the token, there may be pull for masters, trying to figure out where it is. So that's a big problem. Here you can again drill down into these device checks. You can see the source and the destination. So this is really nice because you can actually see the token round trip 3 talks to 4, 4 talks to 5, 5 talks to 6. I have seen some here where it's just completely what seems like random, 3 talks to 4, and then 3 talks to 5, and then 3 talks to 6, and then 4 talks to 5. And that's often a wiring problem or some major misconfigurations. So you can see here the maximum amount of time it takes. In this case, it's 1,096 milliseconds. The minimum is 1 millisecond, and the standard deviation is 106. So it's varying a decent amount between trips, and you can sort it to see which devices are varying the most. In this case, it's device source 27, passing the token to 28, is having the most variation. Although they're all having a bit of variation. We also have our token disruptions, which is basically looking at if the token is dropped and a device is doing a pull for master, trying to figure out where it is, that will show up as a token disruption. However, this file doesn't have any of those, so that's good news. That is primarily, those are pretty much all that's different about the MSTP captures in Visual BACnet than a regular capture. The other is the notes and the reports and the different graphs are all the same. And so if anyone has any questions about Visual BACnet, I'm more than happy to take them. Definitely the best way to figure out how it works and really understand it is to go online to try the 2-week trial. We have it for a reason. We want you to get your hands dirty and try it out with that system that's been giving you problems. So give it a try and definitely talk to us on the chat with any questions you have. Or you can always give us a call or email. You've all received an email from me, so you should have my contact information. So I'm more than happy to walk you through things, pull in any of our engineers or our experts to give you more information on what we think is going on in your system. So thank you so much. We do have a very regular webinar series. This is the last one for this year. The last week was supposed to be the last one, but there was so much demand for this that we came back. But please do join us in 2017. We're going to be doing some basic troubleshooting in Wireshark. We're going to be doing some more case studies on different ways that different organizations are using Visual BACnet for baselining and commissioning and lots of different things. So please join us. That will be emailed out to all of you as soon as it's all secured and we've got our dates. And in the meantime, if anyone has any questions, feel free to submit them. I know that our moderators have been working hard answering a ton of questions for you guys. So hopefully those are being answered. Let's see, I have a comment here. So I think I mentioned this, but in MSTP files, it is the tokens that are classified as non-BACnet. BACnet frames are still classified as the BACnet frames, so that was something that someone was asking about. So you can see that here. There is still green of any BACnet frames. The tokens are showing up as the orange. Thank you for that comment. Let's see, any other questions? All right, well, I don't see any questions here, so thanks everyone for joining us today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. A very happy holidays. Hopefully you get some time off to go and enjoy it with your family. And if you have any questions, or if there's any questions that we didn't get back to, we will be going through them and we'll touch base with you and do our best to answer them. In the meantime, thanks again and have a good day. Bye.